All right. So there's certain numbers that I'm having to start looking at now that I'm a life coach, especially for the women I serve. And let me tell you, those numbers are scary, and something I've been thinking about. The numbers are scary, and the fear makes it hard to ignore them because Black women are the most educated group in the US. And I even venture to add, close to maybe in the world. We hold the highest labor force participation amongst all women. We're starting businesses at record rates. We're supporting families, communities, teams on our backs every single day. And at the same time, Black women report some of the highest levels of burnout, of anxiety, and a lot of unaddressed, unacknowledged emotional stress. And when you look at the culture, look around, read, see what's happening on social media, on TV, you can see why. Unless you're under a rock, you really can. Think about the stories that we grew up with. The way women like Serena Williams, Michelle Obama, Taraji P. Henson, Cheryl Lee Ralph, and many, many others were praised for their resilience, for their gifts, their talents, their poise, all those different things. And then on the other side, judged very viciously, very, very harshly the second they showed signs of fatigue, pregnancy, wear and tear, the minute they asked for help, when they basically stripped their masks and their veils and showed their humanity, showed their themselves as women. When they dared to admit that they weren't perfect and they needed a break and they couldn't keep going on like this, that they were tired. Because the truth is, in particular with this group, high achieving Black women, our strength is celebrated to no like no other. And conversely, our softness is questioned. It's to the point where you even begin to internalize it and feel like when you're tired, when you're disinterested or even bored and no longer want to keep going, you have no choice but to go on. Rest becomes something that you have to earn, that it becomes almost like a luxury, and things like, which I used to say, and I think I've shared often enough, I'll rest when I die or I'll sleep when I die, stupid stuff like that. Because vulnerability, showing your weakness, showing your uniqueness as a beautiful woman is treated like it's a problem, or you're on the other end of life, right? You're no longer, because you no longer want to perform, you can no longer perform, or you're used goods, you're cast to the side onto the next person who's willing to sacrifice her humanity, willing to sacrifice her desires, who's willing to sacrifice her femininity to just keep going, keep this show of strength, this abyss of strength that you're supposed to have. And that's the environment that many of us grew up in, and the environment that, for all intents and purposes, we're still in. I feel like it's even more toxic now, and I don't use that word typically or use it even lightly when I do. That's a trap that I want to talk about tonight. That's what's causing that pressure, is what's causing us to keep going and going and see no way out, to the point where some of us are imploding because we cannot see a way out. We don't see a place to rest. We don't see people who see us as humans, who need that space to just be, where we can just share and say, I'm scared, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm tired, this is enough, or even I don't want this anymore. Because that is a real thing. When you spend years and years and years doing, when you've accomplished a lot of parameters of success, the external markers of success, as I like to say, there gets to be a point where you wonder, how many more designer shoes, how many more homes, how many more vacations do I need to have or take or own before I start to feel happy, before I start to feel my life means something more than just doing and accomplishing. For years, I've watched many Black women in public and privately get applauded, get praised for their strength, for their performance, for the things that they're doing. And yes, they do accomplish a lot of feats. I'm not going to, I'm not denying that or even minimizing that. They are praised for dependability, carrying more than most people will, showing up with grace, enduring, going high when people are in the depths of hell, you know. And it sounds like love after a while. It may even sound like you respect or admire them. But over time, you start to see that there's a cost attached to being like this, to living your life like this, where you're always expected to do certain things, where you're expected to be quiet, to hold your silence, where not talking back is graceful, where you allow people, because if you speak up, you're considered brash, aggressive. You allow people to disrespect you. The way people lean on you without ever asking if it's okay, or if you even have a place to lean on, if you have a safe space, if you come, if you want to rest, if you want to take a break, if you need something, how you are. And I share this because I see this happening. Public figures, people, regular everyday people, I see them. I see them crushed. I see them tired. I see women looking for communities where they can just be. Where it's more, they don't want to talk about wealth or relationships or anything like that. They just want to be nurtured and to nurture places where you can talk about lipstick and eyeshadow and nail polish and just fun, light stuff without the heaviness of promotions and money and investing and retirement and parents getting older and children going crazy and all of that stuff, and failed relationships and getting into relationships, all of that. Being the one that people depend on, being the one that people look at as always in control, perfect, it takes its toll. You are the emotional anchor for the storms that other people weather, and you have no place for yourself. You manage the environment, manage the vibe, the way people feel. You say things so that people feel better. You withhold so that people don't get offended, even when it's true and even when it's out of love. All of this takes its toll. And so we're at the point where burnout, overwhelm, and you can Google this. I mean, we're all doing that anyway. Burnout, overwhelm, and not for the reason of something is too much for you or you don't know what to do or you're confused. None, that's not the way. That's not in this sense. Folks are tired and they just want to be. They acknowledge as humans. They just want places where they can be themselves. They want to be able to say, I'm not okay, and know that it's okay to say, I'm not okay. And so some of us are not asking for help, but some of us who are not really getting it because we're not being heard. So I want to say that if you're not asking for help, or if you're asking and you're not getting, it's because somewhere along the way, just like you learned that asking for help wasn't an option, the people around you were trained to see you as someone who didn't need the help. So you're bracing, they're ignoring, you're holding it in, they keep going. You learn to smile and pretend that everything's okay. They are very shallowly looking at you, keeping it at surface level and thinking, I mean, unless she drops dead, she's okay. I don't want you to unravel, and I want you to see that survival has become automatic for a lot of us. My own life started to shift when I realized something I was not told, that strength is a skill. And somewhere along the way, it became something that I used to survive, which was not ever the intention of it, or which is not what we should be doing, I guess. Because when you do that, your mask is showing up in your relationships, energy, the way you handle disappointment, the way you handle your own mistakes. It's keeping you pushing through days that feel heavy, heavier than they used to. So All of this to say it's a signal that the woman you became in survival is gone or going. And the woman who you are now or who you're becoming is the you that your soul's desire wants to connect with, or that your soul wants your desire to connect with, however you want to put it. If you're starting to question this strong black woman role you were handed or you took on, you're in good company. You're not alone. According to those numbers, it is wild in those streets for us. And if you're noticing the gap between how people see you and how you actually feel inside, you're not imagining it. It's a real thing. And now, more than ever, as cliche as that sounds, it's the time to do something about it. Because the life that you built, being strong, all by yourself, wearing that superwoman cape, it's tight, it's closing in, it's disconnected, it's heavy. And I want you to pay attention in a way that you've never had the space, the opportunity, the desire, the knowledge to, because you were never supposed to erase the needs that you have, the desires that you have, with being strong, with being perfect, with showing up. It was just meant to support you, just like strength was meant to support you, not to override and be what you used to survive. So, if any part of this is resonating, if you see yourself, if you know ladies who are experiencing this, I want to invite you to the Soft Life Shift Masterclass on December 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern. And I want to tell you that besides registering with the link that's in the description, I want you to think about, if you don't start to get away from this way of being, what it's going to be like in 3 months, 2 months, or even next year, January 1st. How much longer are we going to continue to deal with overwhelm, burnout, frustration, even? Because who we want to be is not who we're being now or how we're operating now. Because the disconnect, the misalignment, the burden, the overwhelm is because what you're doing, how you're living your life, is not how you're supposed to live your life. So to come back into integrity with yourself, to be an integrous woman, is to align what you're doing, how you're being, with who you were destined or created to be. And one of the first steps is to attend this masterclass. If you can attend, as long as you register, you'll get the replay. I promise you, and I'm not saying this lightly, two things I'm not saying lightly, that it's a toxic environment and that the masterclass is going to revolutionize how you see what is happening to you. And more importantly, give you what you need to get started. I kid you not, it's time for us to start prioritizing ourselves exclusively. And that does not mean you're deprioritizing others. Two things can be possible. You can center yourself as the main actor or main character in your life, main actress, and still care for those around you. But if centering yourself causes those around you not to want to be around you, then that's a signal that they were only connected to you or in your life because you were a certain way. And now that you're no longer that way, they don't want to be around you and they don't need to be around you. So, what I've also seen happen is that relationships shift. People leave, people start acting up, they start saying different things because the you who was performing, the you who was always available, the you who barely asked for help or needed help, was serving a purpose for them. And so once you're no longer always reliable, always dependable, what's the point? So be prepared for that. We'll be talking about in the masterclass why your strength became your automatic role, or why it became an automatic role for you, a default way of operating, how to step out of over functioning without feeling guilty, without being pulled back to Hey, let me just do this for this person. Let me just show up. Let me just give this. When your soul is saying, no, 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 no. And finally, what it looks like when you choose softness. That's why it's called the soft life shift. We're shifting into that soft life because that's the beginning of becoming that woman that you were created to be. Once you do that, that feeling of offness, that feeling of what else is there? Why is my life like this? Why do I have all these things and still feel like this? Who are these people in my life? It goes. So you choose softness without guilt, without caring who's disappointed or who's not. And the truth is, I'm going to round up in a minute. Those who truly care for you won't be disappointed. They'll be in your corner, they'll be rooting for you, and they'll be finally happy that you are showing up as the woman God created you to be, and most importantly, the woman that your desires are predicated on. I'll see you in the next live, and I want to see you in the masterclass. You can share this too with ladies who you know would benefit from it, or share the link. Ciao.